Welcome to Real Truth with Noma Swazi. 3 reasons God entrusts Africa with trials. Peter walked on water during the storm because his eyes were on the king. When his eyes focused on the storm, he sank. The storms and trials of life may range, but perspective changes everything. Don't run from the trials. Don't fortify your life so you can stay safe and comfortable. You will miss out on being used by God. God entrusted Africa with trials because He is using Africa for His glory. He is at work in Africa, through Africa, and around Africa. For God to use Africa for the end time, He first needs to put them in trials. God entrusts us with trials, a lot of them. Paul said that through many tribulation we must enter the kingdom of God. Acts 14 verse 22. Here are 3 reasons God entrusts Africa with trials. Number 1. Trials put God's power on display. Gideon started off with an army 1/5 of the size of the Midianites, and then God made the odds even worse. Judges 7 verse 2. Just as God used Gideon's testing, so too God uses Africa's trials to show that He alone deserves the credit. Trials makes it clear to the world that Africa is not in control. The world can see that Africa do not have the ability or strength to overcome the problems. Only God can overcome the problems in Africa. Number 2, trials make us dependent on God. Africa is the number 1 continent that depends on God. In Africa, witchcraft is on a rampage. If you do not have God, you won't survive. In Benin, it is a law that by 5 o'clock you shouldn't be outdoors due to witchcraft. God uses trials to cause Africa to be more fully dependent on Him. He wants Africa to cling to Him and find peace in Him. 1 Corinthians 1 verse 22 to 31. Trials are an opportunity for reward. Number 3. Africa, God's firstborn, that rejected stone, so it can become the chief cornerstone. Africa partook of the suffering of Christ and must partake of the glory that must follow. Africa in Simon of Syria helped to carry the cross that Jesus Christ was carrying. The only continent that identified with the death of Jesus must now partake in the glory, in the end time glory. The end time revival will start in Africa. The end time revival will start in Nigeria. We must pray for the continent of